My name is Corrine Zudoni. I am the editor-in-chief of Contracting Profits Magazine, Facility Cleaning Decisions Magazine, CleanLink.com, and Sanitary Maintenance Magazine. I work in conjunction with our facilities team, and our company puts on NFMT and clean buildings. So we're very excited to have everybody here. Day two. It's a busy show floor. We had some great education, which included a session from Sherri. But I'm gonna let Sherri introduce herself for our little chat here.
Okay. Thanks, Corinne. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Shari Cedar. My company is AK Building Services. I'm the CEO and co founder. Our company is based in South Florida, although we cover the entire state, primarily on the East Coast. We are recurring janitorial revenue. That's 5 days a week. Service is our sweet spot. We clean single tenant, multi tenant, corporate headquarters, medical, branch banks, HOAs, educational facilities, etc.
Yeah,
What else should I
very
say?
busy.
We've been in
No?
business about 25 years, and I run the company with my husband. We have about 800 associates.
Yeah, she's very, very busy. I met Sherri a number of years ago, and we've talked about a lot of different things. But one thing of late that we've talked about is an issue that's facing any department, any facility, any professional type, and that is labor. So one thing that Sherri does really well is, well, first off, she's got a fantastic personality. So, so it's that to me helps lend to a very positive culture, and culture helps support retention of employees. So that's kind of the topic of what we're going to talk about today. And Sherri, I just want to ask you, like, what are your thoughts on company culture and how, sometimes people are like, what is company culture? How do I know what mine is in an effort to improve it? So if there's anything that you can add to that might be able to be helpful to anyone.
Sure. I just want to start by saying company culture is often underestimated, dismissed, poo pooed as rah, 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 and woke. But it's not. It's really, really important. Company culture is what fuels your growth, it protects your revenue, it it's about retention, and it gives people purpose and value of where they come to work every day. And that's really what's going to drive your business. And I said this in the earlier session. If you look at a winning football team, although I'm least qualified to talk about football, but if you look at a team that's cohesive and a unit working together, they're happy, they're a team of positivity, kindness, as opposed to backstabbing, toxic, disjointed, that team plays better, that team wins games. And your company culture is the same thing. It can't be underestimated.
That's a really good point. So, a toxic culture. We talked about this in a huddle that we had earlier today. And you have one bad apple, and it spoils the bunch. So, company culture is not a difficult thing. It can be as simple as an attitude.
Well, company culture is a mindset. Company culture is intentional and it's driven and it's strategically planned. You could be the nicest, happiest person all the day, but that doesn't mean you have a great company culture. Company culture is led by positivity. Company culture is engaging associates to feel valued and welcomed. Company culture is about appreciation. It's about learning opportunities. It's about transparency and communication, and valuing people. And that trickles from the top down. And when you have a bad apple, a cancer, a toxin, a one bzzz, that spreads really fast. And I think everyone in this room can identify at one time or another in their career where you've had that one person who's just bringing the vibe down, right? And then a new employee comes, you're like, no, don't talk to them. So you hit it head on, right? Head on. And you come in and say, we're very transparent. We don't gossip in our office. And everyone knows I have a zero tolerance for gossip. No. So you have something to say, let's talk about it. And maybe this person's not the right fit for your culture. And it's okay to say that to them. You might not be a good fit for our organization. You're wonderful. Can I help you find a new place to be? With a big smile.
Have you had to do that before?
I have.
Wow, that's tough. Has anyone else had to do that before? Yeah,
Yeah.
a few people. Yeah.
As hard as that is, it is a whole lot easier than watching one person bring down your organization, because it just takes a little bit of poison to poison the well.
So how do you identify someone like that? Because sometimes as a manager, and you have employees all over on
They
properties all
identify
over.
themselves. I don't have
Oh,
to do anything.
do you hear? I mean, do you hear about it? I mean,
Yes.
do you? And then what is your next step?
So,
Observing them. What you know?
so everybody knows at our company, I have an open door policy. Now, of course, go to your manager, go that. But if someone has a real issue, you better come talk to me. And I would be really upset if they didn't. So I find that with that trust, and it's not talk to me and then I'm going to rat you out. But if people come and talk to me, I'm able to think about a situation and then figure out a way to navigate this without anyone feel like their trust is violated, because you never want to violate trust, ever, because then they won't talk to you again. So because of that, and people love to talk. They love to talk. They love to tell you things. So that's how we do that. And you can start. We have in our handbook says you can't disparage other employees. Our handbook says a culture of professionalism. So you do have the handbook if you want to go that route to do a write up. That's not my favorite way. But if somebody's bad mouthing the company, somebody's bad mouthing their coworkers, they need to be called out on it. Verbal warning. Second time, they're going to be written up. Third time, we'd love to help you find someplace else.
So there's obviously levels in an organization. You at the top of your at your particular organization, but oftentimes that bad apple is way at the bottom. So how do you work with your middle management and maybe the boots on the ground that are in that space to help control that cancer from spreading before it
Well,
becomes an issue?
okay, but first of all, you can't just assume because somebody told you something.
Right.
You can't just say, oh my gosh, that person's toxic, I'm firing them, I'm writing them up. That's not fair. And you don't know politics, you don't know dynamics. And in South Florida, we have a lot of different cultures. And what you find is you have cultures who just instinctively don't get along. And you have to be mindful of that. And that's reality. So you have to investigate. You have to talk to all parties involved and really understand the situation, because to rush to judgment, you're just as guilty. So what if somebody came to me or I heard about this, have conversations, learn the dynamics. Maybe it's a great employee, but they just don't get along with somebody and they need to be reassigned. Maybe they're going through a particularly tough time in their life right now and they just needed support to vent. Maybe maybe somebody's not pulling their weight on the job site and this person has to do more, and they've gotten grumpy about it because their supervisor did not listen, and we need to realign the workload. So it's simple, but it's not. There's a lot of questions to be asked before you get to the level of discipline. Now, if someone outright disrespects somebody, and that's to me very clear, right? That's not tolerate. Insubordination is not tolerated.
Right. And I think what you mentioned earlier about communication and transparency is really important, and follow through, because if, say, that one employee complained about their fellow employee and it was because this one employee had been picking up the slack,
Right.
what they're going to see is your response to their inquiry, whether it's right or wrong. They will see you respond, and that creates a
Yes.
level of respect, and that permeates throughout the team. That, oh, if I go to my leader, I can trust them, that they're going to at least investigate, and that adds to a culture, wouldn't you say?
That adds to a culture, but what also adds to your culture is being able to listen, but having your eyes wide open. If you have a great performer, one of your strongest employees is suddenly disengaged, they're tired, they're not, they used to raise their hands in meetings, they're not. Why is that? Are they overburdened? Is their portfolio too big? Um, there's a variety of reasons. Do they not have what they need to succeed in their job? And if that area manager is taxed or a supervisor, that trickles down. And we try to be very mindful of the headspace of our leaders, because if leaders are overburdened or taxed or tired or have a sick child at home, we're human. Take a day, get yourself together, refresh your head. And that's part of company culture too, is really understanding people. It's a people business.
Right.
So anyway, that's all part of culture, is hearing people. People want to be heard. Oftentimes that's key. I just want to know that someone's heard me. And then looking at really paying attention to the problem. What caused it?
So if you contribute to an improved company culture, how have you seen that transition into staff retention? Is there, like, is it a direct correlation? Is it people just like, you know what, I stay here because I love it. I love my boss. I love the culture. I love what I do. How does that add to retention? Because labor is such a problem that, everyone wants to know, how do I keep the people I have, assuming they're
Okay,
good.
so there's a correlation, but they're not mutually exclusive. So on a supervisor or manager level, absolutely. Our managers are with us years and years. They're family, so that's great. Um, and we work very hard at culture and for retention in that capacity. Absolutely. Our long-term employees, absolutely. When it comes to, though, new employees, if you don't onboard, I have seen time and time again, if they are not onboarded correctly, they don't last. So onboarding and company culture must be tied together. You must welcome somebody with open arms, give them the tools to succeed, check in them, check on them. How do they vibe in their new account, etc. So when you can succeed at onboarding, you've added to your company culture and you will have retention. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Poor onboarding, though, game over. Stop it, it's out the window.
Yeah. What have you found specifically for onboarding? What have you found most successful? Is there a strategy, a timeline, a certain task, assigning a specific manager? Is there any technique during your onboarding process that you found successful?
I'm going to back it further. Recruiting. Get the right person for the right job. Number one, if you have somebody who's got to commute, I said this earlier, take 2 buses, plus they work a day job and they're coming in, that's just never going to work. Find the right person for the right job with the right experience. Especially if people go, oh, I clean my house. That's not the same as professional associates who understand contract commercial cleaning. It's a different person. So hire the right person for the right job. That's number one. And we've taken more time, and we are very clear, just because it's a warm body does not mean this is the right fit for the job. So recruiting is really, really important. And then with onboarding, the proper training is really important. If the area manager or supervisor does not train, and you throw somebody into a job site and say to a coworker, oh, would you just train them? It just doesn't succeed. It sometimes does. That associate has a task that they're not allowed to go on over budget. They have other obligations. And now you've just added another layer. So unless you're going to incentivize them or train them on how to train somebody, and then the new associate feels disenfranchised. No one even cared enough to train me or teach me. The existing associate feels taken advantage of and overburdened. So that doesn't work. What does work is when they come in, they're clearly explained what the job is from the day one. Expectations are set. This is what's expected of you. This is how you're going to do it. Here are the tools on how you're going to succeed. Here is the person you're going to talk to if you have a problem. If for whatever reason you can't communicate with them and there's an issue, here's someone at the main office that you can talk to. Then we check in with them, you know, end of day 1, end of day 3, end of week 1, week 2, and so on and so forth. But that takes discipline, and it takes you have to be cognizant of how you do that, because we have in our industry, right, there's issues all the time. So the simple tasks that you put on your morning to-do list sometimes get brushed away. I'll do it tomorrow. But this takes discipline to be able to follow through, and it will pay off.
Yeah, you mentioned the check-ins, and this came up. I did a huddle earlier about staff retention and recruiting, and we talked about checking in.
Yeah.
And one individual said, "Oh yeah, we check in at the end of the first month, at 6 months, and in a year." Another one said every 2 weeks, every at the 6 week mark, and then at the end of the year.
That's not enough.
And so I mean,
enough.
I talked to so many of our readers that have shortened that substantially because they have a problem with people coming on board and only lasting a day, 2 days, 1 week, So that check-in, you said after the first day, after 3 days, after 6 days is, I mean, that's three
It's an
times
art.
in a week.
It's an art, right? And it's not a science. So if you have to know the person and the job and the scope of it. But you lose an employee before it's $1,500 to $3,000 for every turnover employee. That's really the cost of losing an employee. It's a lot. So it is worth it, just simply from a business standpoint, to do that. But from a company culture standpoint, it's really, really important to do that. If somebody comes home from the first day and they're like, wow, this company's great, they really took time, versus, oh, it sucked, I got thrown into it. Like, that's really important.
And I was going to say it adds to the culture quite a bit. We had someone start on my team, and I gave her a tumbler, a coffee tumbler that had our logo on it, and it was sitting on her desk when she got there, and she was like ecstatic because she needed a coffee and she forgot her mug on her first day of work. And I was like, well, there you go. I mean, we've got like 200 of them in the back if you want another. I mean, but that little thing made such a huge difference in her first day. And I asked her, we're physically in the same office, so I check in with her often. And she's like, I told all my friends and family how much I love this job. And I was like, well, you've only been here 2 days. Give me some time, But, it just does add to a culture. And then they spread the word. We had somebody else start a week later on a different team, and she asked the girl, did you get a mug? Like, that was so important to her, that one little thing. And it adds to your company culture, your onboarding process. So
it's not like people are lining up to work these days. The labor market is really tough. I can only speak to my labor market in South Florida. We are competing with Amazon distribution centers for higher wages. We are competing with immigration policies. And, I'm not getting into politics here at all, but let's be honest, that affects our industry. And even though everyone's e-verified and whatnot, they're still family members, et cetera. So you're dealing with that. So when you find good employees, when you find great employees, you find someone with potential, you need to really nurture and not take it for granted. I mean, people, we are in a people business. We're delivering a service, but we are 65% labor in our industry. We have to love and appreciate our team members.
I think that's a really good way to go out. Does anyone have any questions for Sherri? Right up front. Yes, he was waiting for that one. Yeah. Here, there's a microphone, actually. Can you hand that microphone to him just so that we can all hear what you have to say? You got to turn it on. There you go. Flip the button up.
Hello.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. The question is, how do you train your managers and leaders to manage empathy before reaching up the level of discipline?
It's a great question because human nature is sort of innate in who you are. It's a really important quality when you hire, but you have your team. So in our monthly manager meetings, we always take a section and they joke with me and call it the softer side. But I always tell stories, and it's embedded into all of our trainings, and we role play sometimes. We role play, and that helps a lot because suddenly someone sees it from a different point of view, and something as simple as that conversation. Why don't you have that conversation and see how you feel? That actually goes a long way.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Sherry? Oh yeah, in the back.
Hello. Not much more of a question, but more of a comment. When hiring, what I did on my practices is I took my time to hire housekeepers because if you trying to get a body in, they're not gonna work out. So I'll do multiple interviews and see if they're the right fit for the job. So that's my opinion. What do you think about that?
I think that's a luxury and amazing that you can do that, right? So, what the key is then to keep a bench of people and a good pipeline of employees. Sometimes, if somebody, for whatever reason, is a no call, no show, they get sick, injured, family issues, and you've got to fill the position quickly,
Right. True.
that happens.
Yeah.
But I think that's, if you have that luxury, that's a wonderful thing.